Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning, live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It's Thursday. We'll have Brent Beaird, a college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. We'll also have Blake Brockermeyer from 24/7 Sports out in Texas. Talk a little Longhorns and just get his thoughts. He covers pretty much the entire country. Get his thoughts on just the landscape of college football and pretty much the last month of the season. You missed it. Well, I don't know if you missed it or not, but tonight you got Thursday night football, Bengals and Ravens. Got a couple of college games, and the Gator basketball team has their home opener at 8 o'clock against the JU Dolphins. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. And he has been staying up late at night trying to figure out who he's going to vote for on the Heisman Trophy. What's up, Brent?
Shane, good to be with you as always. Yes, there's been much going on. And by the way, Appalachian State at East Carolina, Florida Atlantic at East Carolina. So the Carolinas are in play for tonight. So, and look, people may say, that this is not great football, but the great thing about what's going on now, when you've got games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we get to see teams we probably wouldn't normally be concentrating on. So hopefully along with basketball, people will enjoy some of that.
Yes, for sure. Brent, the first playoff show came on, official playoff show. I saw the ones that they've had the previous 2 weeks, and I mentioned them on my program. People said that I was crazy that they haven't had their show yet. I was like, they had a show. I just didn't know that it was not official. Any thoughts on the first playoff rankings?
Right now, if you had your first round games would be Indiana and Tennessee, Boise State at Ohio State, Notre Dame at Penn State, and Alabama at Texas. I won't get too deep into it, but the thing we also need to remember is the strength of schedule is very important with these things. Oregon, who's number one, is 45. Georgia's number one in strength of schedule. Miami is 46 in strength of schedule. Indiana's 103rd. So if they get left out, we don't know about that yet, but if they get left out, that might be the reason Alabama's 11th. So that's one of the reasons that they're where they are. So that there are a lot of factors in these things, frankly. The thing that I read this week that was the most interesting of all is from David Hale at ESPN. I'll give him credit for this. And I'll be brief about this, but I think that this is important. He did a story that there are 33 teams, 33 now, still worth monitoring for the 12-team playoff. I won't go into all of them, but the bottom line with this is the interest this expanded playoff is drawing is what he's getting at. So right now, on the 7th of November, Shane, we're talking about 25 to 30 teams at least being in play and their fans being interested. And don't think for a minute that's not one of the things or one of the reasons we expanded this thing was to get more teams involved or interest from fans. TV ratings are up, and all that goes together, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I've been saying now that I've seen a bunch of SEC teams in person calling the games and then watching so much football as I do, the parity in college football is like it's never been. And I think it's outstanding. As much as we hate the NIL and the portal, it's allowed other teams to bring in some decent players.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I mean, you just mentioned is 33, 34 teams are still in the hunt, possibly even more. You just don't know, but it's great. People talk about how Florida's closed the gap on Georgia, which I think that is true, but I think pretty much everybody in the SEC has closed the gap on those teams or will begin to close it. Um, Brent, I have a text here on the Titan War text line. It's kind of long, but it's from Greg, and it was sent last night, but it was something that I talked with JC about yesterday regarding the playoffs. And I'm not sure if you knew this or if like the public, I didn't realize this until when I was over in Jacksonville at a couple events. Greg McGarity was at one of them and talking about the playoffs. He runs the Gator Bowl.
Yes.
And he was saying how these home games that in the 12-team playoffs aren't really going to be home games because the CFP is setting the prices for the tickets. And so your regular students aren't going to be able to buy. I mean, they'll have a small allotment, I'm sure,
Yeah.
that these kids can
Yeah.
afford, but it's going to be a very, very expensive ticket that a lot of regular fans will not be able to attend. Have you ever thought about that, or did you ever hear about that? Because that was the first time I'd heard that.
Well, that is very interesting, and it's also certainly not surprising. And I hope these first round playoff games don't become a shall we say a corporate event, to where your average fan just can't go. But look, that frankly, people, we're actually doing a service by people finding out about this, because maybe that will help them. If you're a fan of a team and you think your team is going to have first round playoff game, to start saving now in order to get it. I don't know how much more it will be than a regular season ticket. I hope it's not double or triple of what it is. But no, I'm glad you brought that up. That is a real point. And again, your top four get buys, and then 5 through 12. So actually 5, 6, 7, 8 will be the hosts for the playoff games. And Shane, another thing that needs to be brought up here real quick is now we're talking about December the 20th and 21st. If you've got a home playoff game during that time, it may not seem like it right now, but it may be rather chilly for some of these games, particularly if these Big Ten teams get a playoff game. So, good point. There's a lot involved in those playoff games that we probably won't know until we actually have them.
But that's playoff weather, Brent. I mean, that's football weather, right?
I agree. Totally.
I don't agree.
Absolutely.
I've never understood that at all. I've never understood it. 70 degrees is football weather, in my opinion. Brent, I don't know if I can ever remember a season that had so many preseason ranked teams that they stink right now.
It really is amazing, isn't it? That teams that we really thought would do very well, frankly, at this point have not. So that, I mean, you're looking at, Auburn's one. Well, I don't think Auburn was necessarily ranked, but I mean, Michigan was 5-4. FSU's 1-8. They were 9-10. Oklahoma was 16. They're 5-4. Arizona's 3-6. Southern Cal's 4-5, and they continue to go down. We thought NC State would be a lot better, but they're 5-4. But see, some of these numbers here. I mean, Southern Cal is 6-10 in their last 16 games. Auburn's 5-13 in their last 18. Florida State's 2-9 in their last 11. And Nebraska, that we thought, was going to be pretty good, is 4-8 their last 12. So, that's tough. But on the other hand, Miami's 9-0 first time since 2017. Oregon's 9-0 for the third time ever. Indiana's 9-0 for the first time. Army is 8-0 for the first time. This is an amazing stat for Army. I'm curious if you've ever heard this at this point in the season. Shane, Army has one turnover this year. One. One. Shane, I know you. I know they're disciplined. I know what they run, but have you ever heard of that after 8 games?
No, that's extremely impressive, no question about it. You failed to mention too, Brent, the Mighty Gators are 3-9 in their last 12, along with this team. So that is not good football at all. We're speaking with Brent Beaird, a college football analyst here on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, Florida Victorious, proud NIL partner of the Florida Gators, joined today to help make Florida victorious. All right, Brent. Lincoln Riley, what's going to happen out there?
Well, it's not good right now, is it? They're making a change at quarterback. Miller Moss did not work out. So they've got a UNLV transfer, Jaden Malaya, that is going to be starting. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games, or 4-5 at this point, too. So it is someone did the math on this. You remember Clay Helton when he was there. Clay Helton was 46-24, 66%. Lincoln Riley's 19-8 at 64%. Someone who has more time than you and I. They figured out that Clay Helton cost per win is $500,000, and Lincoln Riley cost per win, and there haven't been many, is $2 million. How about that?
Yeah, it's that's nuts for sure. Somebody here on John on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, ask Brent his thoughts on Army's chance against Notre Dame.
Well, I mean, Notre Dame's got the better roster, but you have to really be impressed with what Army's done. So, I mean, will they have a chance? I think they probably would. Now, the question, now they play North Texas this week. Their quarterback, Bryson Daly, has been hurt. He's got one of these undisclosed injuries against Air Force, and North Texas could be a little bit of a difficult game for them. So that's something to watch. That's a good question because, again, a lot of people are questioning Notre Dame's schedule, which is not very tough, and the Army game that's coming up. So watch this game, and if you're interested in Army and Notre Dame, and to see how much Bryson Daly, the Army quarterback, is able to play.
Yeah, North Texas can score now.
They can.
It's a dicey game for them for sure. Okay, so the SEC is now going to penalize coaches for the fake injuries, which this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
The penalty goes up each time you get in trouble doing it, or I don't know how they're going to determine if a guy was faking or not. I guess they'll have to go back and watch the tape if a guy just stands there and falls down.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on that, Brent.
Well, this came out from Greg Sankey, the commissioner, a few days ago, and I don't know if he was particularly irritated at this or what it was, but he was very resolute, shall we say, and determined that something was going to happen here. And what Shane's saying here is, for the first offense, it's $50,000. Second offense is $100,000, and the third would be some kind of a suspension. Now, I mean, Shane, this looks good on paper. That okay, we're trying to do something about this, but to your point, is will this ever really get carried out? I mean, my Stars, I can't imagine them being the point of where they're going to suspend a coach in a game. Now, this is also applies to the assistant coaches. I don't know how they would figure out, necessarily how what assistants were involved with this, but anyway, I guess they wanted to have a policy. It's there, but to your question, it's a good one. How do they enforce it?
Florida-Georgia game all set for quite some time in Jacksonville. Obviously, we'll go to Tampa and Atlanta. Good payouts. Brent, do you have any idea And you can talk about how much money each school's getting, but do you have any idea like what OU and Texas get for playing in Dallas?
I'd like to look at that. That's a great question. They've upped the ante, as you would imagine. Uh, 10 million for each school. I mean, that's amazing money for a neutral site game. But I will say this for what that game means to this city, uh, living in the Jacksonville area, it's worth every penny of it. Frankly, Georgia, they think, and this comes from a Georgia beat writer, is believed to be making 5.5 million annually now. But look, that is incredible money. They thought they would have to pay a lot in order to get it, and they're doing that. And with what we've got here, we're hoping the game stays here forever. And I hope you had a good experience being over here overall with the game. But they've come up with a deal. It was important for the mayor, Donna Deegan, who used to be on the station I worked with in the First Coast News as an anchor. But it was important for her as mayor to get this deal done. They were able to do that. So people here were quite excited about it. But yes, the money is amazing, frankly, now what we get for a neutral site game.
Yeah. SEC, Brent, this weekend. Obviously, we got a couple of elimination games, in my opinion. Georgia at Ole Miss, Alabama at LSU. Let's start first with Alabama. I believe they're coming off a bye week. LSU's coming off a bye week as well. They're heartbreaking loss, or they just got, I shouldn't say heartbreaking, but they got destroyed against the Aggies.
Yes.
How do you see this game playing out? I guess the last time Bama traveled there, wasn't that the overtime game
Yeah, it was.
that
Yes.
LSU won?
Yeah, they did. And you remember they won by going for two on the last play of the game in overtime. So, or it ended up being the last play of the game with that. I mean, as usual, this is a big game on a yearly basis. Both these teams are usually off. That's when their off week is. Bama's 5 in rushing in the league, even though I think they've struggled running the ball. LSU is 11th on defense. Bama's is LSU's 14th in pass defense. And now Bama played much better against Missouri. Now Missouri was without a lot of players, including Brady Cook, and he may not play this week either. Which is a problem. Bama has created 10 turnovers the last 3 games, so that is good. Shane, game day is there, ESPN Game Day. First time since 2019. That tells you a little bit about the LSU program, does it not? Garrett Dillinger, one of the offensive line for LSU, he is out for the game. Brian Kelly, 13-0 in night games in Baton Rouge. I think this is LSU has maybe the best offensive line in the league. Alabama's front 7 is getting better. They have created some turnovers. But I think this is that also comes down to how Jalen Milroe plays. He played better against Missouri. He was frankly abysmal versus Tennessee. So there are a lot of interesting storylines for this game.
Yeah. Text on the Titan number, text line from 941 says, Shane, Billy said DJ practiced yesterday. I'm confused about this. I've pulled a hammy, and I'm not sure how anyone can come back from it, even if it's minor this quickly. Is DJ superhuman, or is this just elaborate gamemanship from Billy? I'm with you. I said I don't think he plays at all the rest of the year because every player that I've ever played with, including myself when I pulled my hamstring, you're out a minimum 4 weeks. So I don't know what to think. I don't know how that's possible. But maybe with modern technology, I mean, hell, I haven't played since 2006, but I just don't know how that can happen. We shall see on that one. Brent, let's talk about the Florida-Texas game. Obviously, the Gators played pretty hard against Georgia.
They did.
Now have to go on the road and play the Texas Longhorns, who are coming off a bye week. I don't think Texas has played really well. I don't think they've played well at all this year, quite honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
Your thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, their record's good at 7-1, but I'm with you. I mean, frankly, Texas could have lost to Vanderbilt,
Mm-hmm.
and probably should have. In some ways, I thought when you look at the stats for Texas, I mean, Quinn Ewers is okay. In the last 3 games, he's had 6 touchdowns and 4 picks, so he has a tendency to get intercepted. Now they are averaging basically to 300 yards passing on the season, but no, I'm with you. I think at some point it kind of catches up with them. I mean, the game's in Austin, and Texas got weapons, particularly at wide receiver. If Isaiah Bond, the Alabama transfer, can play, that's going to make a big difference also in the game. I know you've talked about this, but real quick, I'm curious your opinion of Aaron Gates. I was really impressed with what Aaron did against Georgia. I know Devin Moore played okay, and he got hurt. But these younger players deserve a lot of credit, and Gates caught my eye.
Yeah, he's a guy who didn't play a whole lot the first 3 or 4 games. He's a player. I mean, he
Yeah.
was flying around. He was everywhere in that game and extremely impressive. And hopefully he can continue that moving forward. Brent, your thoughts on the Auburn Tigers? Are they going to make a move on Hugh Freeze? What are you hearing?
No, I don't think they will this year. I think they will give him another year. But the reality for that is it really just has not worked. I mean, they are – look, I'll put Auburn in a nutshell. Auburn basically against Kentucky, Jarquez Hunter ran for 275 yards, and in the Vanderbilt game, Jarquez Hunter in the second half got 2 carries.
That's it?
Yes. And
Huh.
Shane, how do you justify that?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'll give you a quote here. They asked Hugh Freeze, yes, only 2 carries in the second half. His quote was, "I don't think he was banged up. He looked gassed to me." Gassed. They threw the ball 35 times. They ran the ball 21. Jarquez, I mean, you know this. Jarquez Hunter is the best player on the team.
Mm.
And when you run him twice in the second half, Shane, what in the world does that tell you?
Somebody, I don't even have an answer for that. Makes no sense at all. Makes no sense. All right, the other big game in the league, elimination game. The Dogs of Georgia are traveling to Oxford, Mississippi to face Ole Miss. On our podcast Tuesday with Coach Spurrier, he and I both agreed that the SEC is so crazy that after last week, the 2 best teams in our eyes are Ole Miss and South Carolina.
Yeah.
I think Ole Miss wins this game. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm speaking to the Georgia Bulldog Club here tonight, and had a chance to talk to a Georgia beat writer yesterday, and these are some things he told me. He said that part of and this is not an excuse. He just said it's a reality. Carson Beck's not playing well, and I'm really curious your opinion of what's going wrong with him. But they don't have Brock Bowers. They don't have Lab McConkey, who really helped them last year. They thought Oscar Delp would really come in and do well as tight end, but he has been very disappointing. They've had some offensive line injuries. Tate Ratledge may be back. They're actually thin at running back. Now, ETN is good. He had a rib injury, as you know. They like this Cash Jones a lot, and Nate Frazier, too. But they've got to block Walter Nolan, the Ole Miss defensive lineman. Mikael Williams is back on the Georgia defensive line. Jalen Walker at linebacker is a real beast. Arian Smith at wide receiver has played well. Now, Ole Miss can score, as everybody knows. They average 42 points a game. They've got a lot of penalties. They've got 77. They're fourth in the nation. Trey Harris needs to play. We don't know if he's going to play or not. Ole Miss leads the nation in sacks with 42, but their defense under Pete Golding is done well so far. But no, this is a big game for both of these teams, to say the least. But and I want to leave you some time with this before we get too short on it. Carson Beck struggling. I'm curious what you saw in the game.
I saw a guy who is really struggling, and talking to the folks in the press box that watch them play week in and week out, they're surprised that Kirby has not even inserted Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah.
Whether it's a money deal because the reports are he's making over $3 million or whatever. He's playing terrible, Brent. I mean, it's not like he's the one interception where he got hit and the ball fluttered and Pybarn intercepted.
Right.
That was a great play by the defense.
It was.
The other ones he threw into like double and triple coverage.
True.
Like late, and not like even on time. So I think he's thrown 8 interceptions in the last 3 SEC games. I just got to. I think Jackson Dart's the better player. I think Ole Miss at home. I think they can score, and as you said, their defense is better than people think. I just think they win this game. And now, I'm saying that, but it's hard to go against Kirby because in big games he gets his guys ready to play. But I think Carson Beck is holding back the Georgia Bulldogs this year, in my opinion.
Shane, here's my question real quick too, and I mentioned this on some radio programs. My concern for Georgia is you don't want to have to chase points with Ole Miss. Correct. And the point is, if Ole Miss gets out 10 points, 14 points, quickly in the first quarter, particularly as many problems as Georgia's had to score, Shane, that'd be hard to overcome, would it not?
Yeah, and I think that'll be playing right into what Ole Miss and Pete Golding want. They probably want him throwing the football. They don't want Georgia to establish the run.
Right.
They probably want Carson Beck to throw the ball. So should be a heck of an entertaining game in Oxford. I know people up there are excited for it. But basically whoever loses that game is done for the 12-team playoff. Another interesting game real quick, Brent. South Carolina coming off their big upset win at home over A&M.
Right.
Is going to sleepy Nashville, Tennessee.
It's unfortunate they've only got about 26,000 people who can be in the stands because of the construction. This may be Vanderbilt's best home schedule they may have ever had.
Yeah.
They've had Texas there. They've had Alabama there. They've got South Carolina. Look, and I agree with Coach Spurrier, this is a really good game. In a lot of ways. South Carolina's defense, frankly, is elite. Dylan Stewart, for example, had 9 pressures, 9 against A&M. And then again, something you can explain is, listen, in the Auburn game, this sums up Vanderbilt. The game's on the line. Diego Pavia is your quarterback. They went on an 85-yard, 9-minute drive and scored and basically won the game with that. They did the same thing with Alabama. They don't, they're death by 1,000 paper cuts. That they don't break a lot of big plays, but they will 3 and 4 yard you to death and just go down the field. And Shane, that is really hard to stop, isn't it?
Yes, for sure. That's just what Vanderbilt does because they went. Pavia in the last game was like 8 of 24 or something. Mm-hmm. He went the entire second and third quarter. They didn't complete a pass.
That's right.
I think that was against Auburn. So they muddy the game up, make it very ugly, but it's going to be an interesting game with South Carolina coming off that big win and how they perform. There. Brent, give us a few nuggets before we get you out of here.
Well, just some things to watch in the ACC. Miami's at Georgia Tech. We know what happened last year on that crazy game where Georgia Tech won at the end. Virginia's at Pitt. Now Pitt lost last week, so they're getting things back together. Clemson is too against Virginia Tech. So watch that. Florida State obviously still struggling, and they will, unfortunately, it's just going to be that kind of year for them. But Shane, how many people would have thought that Miami and SMU right now are the two best teams in the ACC?
Yeah.
But does SMU surprise you that much? Rhett Lashley has done a great job out there.
No, they're a very good team, and we're going to talk to our man Blake Brockermeyer. He coached out at SMU for a couple of years, get his thoughts on the Mustangs as well. But I'm not surprised, but I still have a hard time picturing them in the ACC.
I know.
What's hard. That's what's hard.
Yeah,
Brent, appreciate
really.
it. Enjoy the dog talk tonight with the Georgia Bulldog Club.
Always enjoy it, bud. Thanks much.
All right, that's our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. Quick timeout. Come back. We'll talk a little Texas football and some other stuff with Blake Brockermeyer from 24/7 Sports out in Texas. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. The Gridiron sponsors are Florida Cracker Kitchen, Comfort Temp, Peachland Dental, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Cogent Bank, UF Bookstores, Florida Victorious, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Electronics World, Miapa Latin Cafe, 84 Lumber, Baker Sporting Goods, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, and Gator Bait Media. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever you're on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor and advertise, call our man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right. With the right insurance options for you and your family, visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call, 352-240-1779. Let's go back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, joined by former Texas All-American, who now is a media boy like me, working for 24/7 Sports out there. Longtime NFL offensive lineman Blake Brockermeyer. What's up, my man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Blake, let's start first. I mean, I think Florida's played out in Texas back in the 30s, I guess, but it's been nobody. I mean, we got a lot of fans going out to this game. What should they expect? I mean, you grew up a Texas fan, you played there. Is it, I'm excited to go to the game myself. Is it going to be like an SEC atmosphere? Because I think that's what with Texas coming into the league, what can our fans expect out there?
Yeah, Texas has upgraded their facilities at the stadium and made the experience. It's very similar to Alabama, kind of the with the LED lights and kind of everything that everybody in the SEC's got. Crowds much improved than it was over the last 10 years. I think part of that obviously is because they're winning, but it'll be a good atmosphere. I think it'll be it's an early game, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it. But it'll be a good atmosphere, and Austin is a unique city that I think the Gator fans will enjoy. There's pretty much do anything that you want down there. It's a fun place to party, and it'll be a fun weekend for the Gator fans.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Longhorns. I was just speaking with Brent Beaird, who's our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Both of us don't think Texas has played up to where they played last year. Now, obviously, you've watched them a lot closer than we have, but I don't think Quinn Ewers has played at a high level this year. Just give me your thoughts. Let's start first with the Texas offense. Does Ewers need to play better moving forward?
Yeah, Ewers has had a bad year. I would say average at best. He has not been what people expected him to be. I've never been a huge fan of his skills. I don't think he's improved much over the years. The key for Texas is Sark is one of the best schemers in the country. He gets guys open by 5 yards. There's very few plays where someone's not open by a lot. And so I think that's been a big benefit to Ewers, just being able to throw the ball. Most of his throws are less than 7 yards down the field. I mean, he's got this big arm that everybody talks about and how he can throw it 100 yards and this and that. But when you watch the film, he rarely makes any throws where he anticipates before the receiver leaves early, doesn't throw the ball between defenders well. So Florida will have to stop try to get it to where the guys aren't wide open by a wide margin where they can kind of defend the passer. But Texas has a good offensive line. The supporting cast around Ewers is really good. Probably one of the best that Florida will see this year. The key is the quarterback. I mean, he can't run. He's not athletic. So that takes away one person the defense has to worry about as a 11 versus 10. So there's some flaws in their offense, but it really comes down to quarterback play.
Do you think we might see Arch, or do you think are people calling for Arch to play? I think he's played a little bit, and when Ewers was out, and then he got benched for a couple of series against OU, and Ewers came back in. Do you think they're a better team with Arch Manning at quarterback?
Well, he got benched versus Georgia, not OU, but I expected Arch to be maybe better than he has been. You see a lot of young quarterbacks around the country that are playing, including y'all's quarterback, who I don't know if he's playing or not playing this week, but I'm a little disappointed that he's not getting more reps, but I think Texas is married with Ewers through thick or thin, no matter what happens. So you might see him for a play or two here, but unless he is just really bad, I don't expect that you would see anybody but Ewers, but you never know. But I mean, it puts Texas in a really interesting situation because Ewers has lost, like Carson Beck, tens of millions of dollars this year, and he really needs to come back and play again, but there's no way he can come back to Texas. So Arch will be the guy next year. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
All right, looking at Texas's defense, what can you tell us? Where are the studs on that side of the ball?
Well, they're really good on defense. That's probably, besides Florida, probably be the best defense that you guys have played this year. They're good on all the levels. They've got they're multiple really good defensive coordinator that can do a lot of interesting things defensively with different personnel. Their D line's pretty solid. They've got some good edge rushers. Their D tackles are obviously down from losing the 2 studs they had last year. Anthony Hills, their middle linebacker, who's a really good player. Their secondary's got some really good players. Jade Barron is playing really well at cornerback for them. He's probably a nickel at the next level. And then Michael Taft's a safety, who is a former walk-on, who is just every year continues to get better and better and better. I mean, this guy is a really good player, a ball hawk, great in the run game as a blitzer. So their defense is for real. Maybe not as talented as Georgia on paper, which I don't think any team in the country is that talented, but they're pretty good on defense, and they're in the top 5 statistically, I think, in a lot of the major defensive categories. So it'll be a test for the Gator offense, depending on who's available to play. It looks like y'all's injury list is 5 pages long. So
Well,
hopefully
we lost a lot of guys.
hopefully,
Lost a lot of guys in the Georgia game. Blake, you've been around football a long time, as I have. When a guy pulls his hamstring, have you ever seen anybody play the next week?
no. I
Yeah.
mean, especially when you pull him out of the game for a third string quarterback. So, I'm sure they're out of the abundance of caution with him just because of what a great prospect he is. But I can't imagine that he would play, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way. We had a question here from Tony on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melon Law. He wanted to know, in your thoughts, Blake, because you watch a lot of tape and stuff. Who's had the worst year, Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers?
I think Quinn Ewers has, personally. Carson Beck, he makes he forces the ball a ton, and just makes some really curious decisions. But you do see him throw the ball down the field. He can throw the ball in tight windows. You see kind of things at the NFL level that will translate. Yours, I don't see that. I see him dumping the ball down, 3 yards past the line of scrimmage to running backs and tight ends and letting the receivers do all the work for him. So, they both obviously are talented players, but neither one of them. This might be the worst quarterback draft we've had in years, but neither one of them have helped themselves this year, I don't think.
All right, let's switch gears real quick before we let you go, Blake. Obviously, you coached a couple of years for SMU. They're having a phenomenal year. Their only loss is to an undefeated BYU team. It's still very strange to me that they're playing in the ACC. How far can SMU go, in your opinion?
I mean, it obviously depends on who they would play, if they make the playoffs or not. But if they play Miami in the ACC championship game, shockingly, I think they have a chance in that game. I mean, Miami's defense, especially their DBs, have not performed well most of the season. Their offense is obviously really good. SMU's got a really good defense. They've got some good players on defense, a good scheme. So I could see them, if they can get in the ACC championship game, I can see them having a chance to really compete in that game. And then obviously it's just going to depend on who they play in the playoffs. If they play Ohio State or a Georgia or Oregon, I mean, they're going to get smashed. But if they play a BYU again or a Boise State or something like that, I could see them having a chance to win a game or two.
Yeah. Do you think Rhett Lashley leaves after this year?
I think Arkansas will be a school that will make it hard for him to say no. I mean, again, why would you leave a great situation? I'm sure SMU will extend him guaranteed money like all these coaches are getting. So if it were me, I would stay in Dallas. It's a great spot. It's a team that's kind of on the come up a little bit. And SEC, Arkansas is a tough place to make a living. So he's from Springfield, Arkansas, so I think that would be an interesting option for him. But he'll probably have some options, I would imagine. He's a good coach and a good person as well.
Yeah. RCC says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, BYU's lost the game. No, they haven't. They're undefeated. All right, Barone has a question for you here, Blake. He says, who does Texas despise more between Texas A&M over OU?
Yeah, by a mile.
Okay.
Not even close.
So you were glad that South Carolina put it on them, huh?
Oh, yeah. Anytime the Aggies lose is a great day for me. But it's amazing, the D-line at South Carolina. I mean, it's unbelievable the talent that they've got and how well they're playing defensively. And then it doesn't matter who they play. When South Carolina plays at night at home, they're almost impossible to beat. I mean, they got a great home field advantage there at South Carolina.
Yeah. All right. Text here on the Titan Mark text line from William. He says, Blake, in your opinion, who is the best team in America today, and who do you think is going to win the Heisman Trophy?
I think Oregon's the best team in the country right now. I think they've got talent on both sides of the ball. Dylan Gabriel, I think, is the X factor just because he's played 8 billion reps at quarterback. He's seen every blitz, and he can run. I mean, in today's college football, if your quarterback can't run, unless you have an elite defense like Georgia, I don't see how you have a chance to win it. I do think Georgia will win the Natty, though.
Do you? I think they're going to lose this week to Ole Miss.
Now, I think if Ole Miss were completely healthy, they might. But I think Georgia is the most battle-tested team in the country by a mile, and have had some really tough games at night on the road. As long as they can stay relatively healthy, I think they'll peak at the right time. And just like the old Nick Saban teams, they have it's really hard to kill elite players like that with elite mindset. And I think Georgia will make it to the national championship game and win it.
So who would you think wins the Heisman Trophy?
I do think Dylan Gabriel is going to end up winning it. I think Travis Hunter's the best player in the country by a mile. I think he should win it. Obviously, Austin Janthe has had an incredible year at Boise. He's a great player. Not real big fan of who Boise plays week in and week out. But I do think Dylan Gabriel is the most valuable player in the country. He's just been incredible this year. High completion percentage, can run, make plays. And I think Oregon's going to make it, deep into the playoffs.
Are you surprised at Colorado this year?
Not really. I mean, Big 12 is not a great conference. Travis Hunter is elite at 2 positions, which is just it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never seen a player do this before. It's like he's secretariat. I mean, the guy never gets tired, and he's just incredible at what he's able to do. And then, Shedeur Sanders is a good quarterback.
Yeah, he is.
So they've got some good talent around them at wide receiver. I think it's Joe Horn Jr. or I don't know if it's the third or whatever. He's a hell of a player too at wide receiver. So they've got some talent. They've upgraded their offensive line a little bit this year. They have a true freshman left tackle who's playing pretty well as a freshman, who's going to be a great player down the road. The real interesting thing to me is going to be, what do they look like next year? Because you take away Sanders and Hunter off that team, and I'm not sure they win more than a couple of games.
I agree.
So it'll be interesting to see. Really, next year is the year, and does Dion even come back next year? I kind of don't think he will, but we'll see. But that team next year is going to be a really interesting team to take a look at, with losing the two of the best players in the country that are difference makers on their roster.
I agree with that 100%. Last thing, Andy's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. How are your boys doing at TCU?
Good. I've got one that's the starting center, is having a great year. My other son is medically retired. Had just been injured his entire college career, so he's not playing anymore. And then I've got my son that played at Texas as a graduate assistant on defense at TCU. So everybody's good, healthy, and not having a great year, but as far as wins and losses, but they're enjoying it there.
I'm trying to remember back in our day in the league when we'd hang out. Didn't y'all hate TCU?
I mean, it was kind of the same thing. Like, until they entered the Big 12, it was like, who are they really playing every week? They're
Right.
winning and doing all this, but they've proven, in the Big 12 that they belong, and obviously kind of caught lightning in the bottle a couple of years ago and made it to the national championship game. But their defense has really struggled this year. They had a couple of injuries early in camp, and they just really struggled stopping anybody. But the offense has been decent. They've got some good players offensively, and hopefully next year they can figure it out.
All right, Blake, appreciate your time, my friend. Hit them straight today. What's your handicap these days?
All right, man. I'm a 4.1 index right now.
Good Lord.
Getting better.
That's some
Getting
good
better.
golf. All right, my friend. Take care. That's Blake
All right,
Brockermeyer,
brother. Take care.
former All-American at Texas, now works for 24/7 Sports out there. Join us on the Titan MRI hotline, courtesy of Comfort 10. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. 1933, Pennsylvania voters overturned the blue law by permitting Sunday sports. Could you imagine if we didn't have sports on Sunday? That's This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Florida Crackers, the brand for original Floridians, great food, Southern hospitality in the center of the universe, Brooksville, Florida, floridacracker.com. I want to thank Blake Brockermeyer and Brent Beaird for joining us on the Titan MRI hotline today. Tomorrow, JC will be here. We'll do our Peachland Dental picks for the weekend, and then we'll get ready to head to Austin, Texas. Should be a fun trip, even though it's such a quick trip. That's man, out of all the games are going to be at 11 a.m. Central Time. Why Texas? But it is what it is. So we'll see. I do not know. A lot of people asked here, did I know that DJ was practicing? That is the report. Again, I don't know how it would be possible for him to play. But again, he's young, new modern medicine. I guess anything can happen. So Mike says, QB, what can the Gator D do to cover intermediate, the middle better?